Welcome to the Cutting Edge Health Preventing Cognitive Decline podcast. I'm Jane Rogers. Welcome back to the Cutting Edge Health Preventing Cognitive Decline podcast. Today, I had the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Paul Savage. He is with MD Lifespans. It's a practice in Chicago, Illinois, and he is pioneering therapeutic plasma exchange. It's commonly known as TPE. It's a pretty new thing, but I think we're likely to hear a lot more about in the future. What he's done, he has saved the data from his patients, and he is seeing significant declines in some of the causes that drive aging and drive cognitive decline, like inflammation, like toxins, mercury, lead, heavy metals. And he's able to reduce those significantly with therapeutic plasma exchange. So he explains how. Dr. Paul Savage, thank you for joining us today. I'm very excited about this conversation we're going to share.
Thanks, Jane. I'm just as excited to share this with your audience.
Excellent. So you have a practice in the Chicago area that is doing therapeutic plasma exchange. That's TPE for short. Can you first, and you're getting really exciting results with it, and we want to unpack all of that. But can you first of all tell folks what's TPE, and tell me about the protocol that you're doing with your patients?
Plasma exchange, TPE, is a process that's been around for almost 60 years. We've used it in medicine for over 167 different disease states. And now the companies that make this process have made the system, the computer, and the machine so comprehensive it literally does everything for you by itself. Plasma exchange, in essence, is an oil change for humans, because just like your car, you can imagine that if the engine starts getting dirty and the oil picks up all this debris and it just keeps carrying it around, which is why you have to change the oil in your car every so often to enhance the life of your vehicle. Well, humans are the same thing. We have plasma. That's what carries our blood cells around in our blood system. But that plasma our liver can make and we can break down. But the problem is, in the last 40 to 50 years, we're encountering so many more toxins that can't be filtered out by the body's system that this oil just gets older and older and worse. So now it becomes much more inflamed, much more oxidized, filled with debris, with the body having no real way to get it out. So what plasma exchange has done, because we've used this in so many different disease states, because what it does is like remove antibodies or remove drugs that we want out, it occurred to us that we could use this to get the toxins out, to get all these things that people have had building up in their system. And we put this together with a whole comprehensive panel, because like an oil change, you want to change the oil, but then you want to put air in the tires, you want to put gas in the tank, you want to check your spark plugs. So we're doing all of that in the whole process. And we put together this program that we started instituting on people about a year ago. And the results that we have been game changers.
So, should we go into those results right now, or we're going to talk about how many times people come to your office first, or what's involved in TPE? Do I have to sit there all day as you shuttle my blood in, and how does it work?
That's a really good question. So I'm a process guy. I mean, that's kind of been my nom de plume for the whole anti-aging world, because when I first came in because of the hormones, because that was back in the 90s and hormones weren't given to men and women, not the natural hormones. So I came in and built 50 centers called Body Logic MD. And what we did was we got hormones out to the men and the women. We were the first one to have that many centers in the United States. But then after I left that company, I went on to build software, because we didn't have a software that worked in our industry. And by the time I left that software company, it had 6 million users. So when I discovered, and when we considered using plasma exchange to eradicate these toxins that we have exponentially increasing in our body, we all sat down and decided to put the protocol together to make it simple. Because if it isn't simple, people have a hard time following it, obviously. So what we did is we basically come up with these, we debated a lot, but we came up with this extensive panel of lab tests that we do everybody. So we can actually measure how toxic you are. Out of 200 biomarkers, over 110 of them are toxins. So we're looking at mold toxins, we're looking at heavy metals, We're looking at pesticides, herbicides, phenols, volatile compounds. We're looking at the phthalates. We're looking at microplastics. We're looking at forever chemicals. We're looking at PCBs. We looked at all of those. And then for the other 90, what we did is we went out and looked at all the very good data markers on inflammation, oxidation, glycation. We wanted to see how your kidneys would react, how your liver would react. We wanted to see how your DNA would react. We wanted to see cancer markers and Alzheimer's markers. So we did this whole panel of them. But it is very simple because you just have to go to a LabCorp to get a blood draw. And we send you a urine kit that give us a morning sample, and you're ready to go. Once you get that all done, my team is already prepping you and having conversations with you to prepare you for the one day that you're going to spend in our office. So that means that we talk to you about what the process is going to be involved, because I don't want anybody to come to our office and get surprised. So once you're in our office, it's about a 4-hour stay in our office. For the first hour, we're introducing ourselves for the first time. We're taking your vital signs. We're getting your weight. We're checking some labs that we need for the machine. And then we get you all set and introduce you to the plasma machine. And although it looks like a big closet that's next to you, it's pretty a simple application because it's just one IV goes in one arm and one IV goes in the other arm. And in one arm it goes out, the blood goes to the machine. And once it enters the machine spins it to separate the cells from the plasma. Then we take your cells and we add it to albumin, which is a human protein, and saline, this is all sterile, and we give that back to you. And that plasma that we've taken out, we end up throwing away. Now, interestingly enough, everybody is about 50-50 on the amount of plasma and cells they have. And we're going to take about 70% of your plasma out during that day, leaving you with 70% of albumin and saline instead. So the interesting thing is you don't feel any different. Matter of fact, a lot of people actually feel lighter. They say, I feel lighter. It's just they feel less toxic. You know those feelings that you had when you actually get a good infrared sauna or you release a lot of toxins. It's like you actually feel better. And that's what a lot of people have mentioned. So once that's done, and that process takes about 2 hours for the machine to go through all this, we then give you a nice little comfortable chair in front of our television, and we get a chance to infuse some nutrients back into you. So we're looking at nutrients and supplements that the body needs while you watch a video of all the different things that we want to talk about how to make your home environment safe. Because once we get the toxins out, we want to keep them out. So we start the education on day one.
Right.
Once you go home with a protein drink. It's a nutrient shake that we have proprietarily patented. Has everything that you need to put air in the tires and gas in the tank and spark in the plugs. And you do that for the entire 4 weeks until you come back for a second time. And this process repeats somewhere between 3, 5, or 8 times, depending on how many toxins you've had before we started. Once you're done, you go home and you continue on the protein shakes. And then we'll do laboratory again about 6 weeks after you finish. And then you and I will sit on the phone for about an hour when the results come back and go over everything that we've accomplished.
You know, you and I know that a lot of the things that TPE pulls out are contributors to Alzheimer's. And you shared before we started recording about your family's history with Alzheimer's, and I shared mine, and it's extensive. And I have the APOE heterozygous. I'm heterozygous for that. It is critical to get these toxins out and to get the inflammation down. And you're finding that TPE does this, and you've done data on 40 individuals. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Could you share those findings? Can you pop those up on the screen, please? Because I want to see them again.
I'm going to make a comment here that I think is very important for the readers to listen to. You are absolutely correct. These toxins in your system that are accumulating over time have not been in this world before. Before 1960s, these toxins did not exist. Heavy metals were still in the ground. Pesticides and herbicides were not used. All these industrial toxins were not manufactured. Now this world that we're living in has over 140,000 different man-made toxins that are in you every day. And you want to hear something scary? 75% of them are inside your home. So that's a lot of toxins to be exposed to. And all these different ways that we have for detoxifying, they really don't work well. If you have heavy metals, the chelation process only takes out 5 or 6 out of the 35 heavy metals that you can be exposed to. If you're using binders for mold, it only takes out a select number of those molds and only to a certain degree. One thing we know, and we work with a very good toxicologist, Dr. Anderson, is he spent his whole 30 years of coming up with different ways of having people get these toxins out of their system. And he'll tell you firsthand that it is laborious and it is difficult to get toxins out of people. Mm-hmm. And so what we've done is came up with one process that addresses all of that. So let's go over those numbers.
Mm-hmm. I would like that. And while you're pulling those up, I've tested for toxins, and especially mold, and I still have high levels of mold. And I have gone through the house. We do not have mold in our home. I was exposed years ago, but they still are harbored inside, and I've tried a lot of ways to get them out and can't. I'm still high. And so if TPE can do that, that's a very exciting
So I'm going to show
protocol.
you what TPE can do. Exactly. So these are some of the, can you see the screen?
I can, yes.
So these are some of the markers. We do 200. I want to just select out some of the ones. And these are markers that are 6 weeks after you finish the program. And what we're looking at here with uric acid.
6 weeks or
six
6 weeks or 6 months?
Weeks. At 6 months, they're
okay.
just as good, if not better, because we have that data coming in as well. But you can see here that the uric acid and C-reactive protein, two good markers of inflammation. The C-reactive protein is down 45%. This is interleukin 1B and interleukin 8 and tumor necrosis factor alpha. All three of these are cytokines, which is the body's way of responding to initiating the immune system and initiating inflammation. And they're down by 93% on tumor necrosis factor and down by 100% on interleukin 1B. Now, we also looked at oxidative factors because, remember, a lot of people don't know the difference, but inflammation is what the body uses to heat up the area in order to bring in all the nutrients and the immune system attacking cells so it can deal with the enemy that's right there in front of them. Oxidation is a different process. It's burning. When you light up a cigarette, you're oxidizing the tobacco. When you light paper on fire, you're oxidizing the paper. When you burn fat in your body, you're oxidizing the fat. That's a destructive process. And we can measure that by the by the 8-guanine, which is how much of the DNA has been burnt. And we can also look at myeloperoxidase, which is how many enzymes are being called into that area to deal with the oxidative stress. So these both markers had down almost by 50% after just 5 treatments.
That's astounding.
Now we get the immune system. Your CD3, 4, and 8 are your T cells. Your CD19 is your B cells, the one that makes all the antibodies, and the CD56 are your natural killer cells. And these are up between 35 to 125% in just a very short time. Mm-hmm. Now we can get into all these heavy metals, but you and I know a lot of the metals that have been associated with Alzheimer's is aluminum, which is very difficult to get out. There's not a real good detox program that does it, but with our program, it's between 75 and 100% in every patient that we've done. And this number stays low out to 6 months so far. But here we got nickel and arsenic and cadmium and antimony. Look at these numbers. This is 65, 100%, 70% on tin. We have got down to mercury and lead. 60% on mercury, 70% on lead. And we start getting...
Mercury is so important to get out if you want to prevent
These are all
decline.
oxidative stressors. All these metals cause oxidation, which is what destroys the tissue, including the neurons in the brain. I always tell people Alzheimer's is the body fighting an enemy in the brain, and the neurons are the innocent bystander. And this is the stuff that the body is attacking. And it doesn't have to be just one. It's usually a combination of many. A virus, aluminum, mercury can all be present, and the immune system fighting them all at once. Then we have all these different pesticides. And here's biphenyl A, the plastic that we drink. This is all these, the old DDT, the old pesticides, the organophosphates. These are down by 68%. And the scary thing is everybody has these toxins to a much higher degree than they even understand. Here's glyphosate, which is one of the most dangerous chemicals, I feel, that we have in our environment. And there's a lot of them, including microplastics, but this is down by 67%. And the phthalates are what the manufacturing industry uses to soften plastics, but they destroy tissues. And then here we come with what you are talking about with all the molds. Here's all the afloxins down by 30 to 90%. Then we have all the fumicins, ochratoxins, Rodan E, Zeo, they're all down by 50, 70, 90, almost 100%. These numbers are very exciting.
Very exciting.
Now, also what we're doing is we have a process in place that we put together a program that they can keep out, because I never want you to come back ever again, have to do this process. Let's do it once and then keep you clean from then on. And we do have 3 different methods that we're proving does enable you to do just that.
Excellent. And tell me about people who walk through the door. Tell me about the 40 people. Were any of them suffering cognitive decline?
So the first 20,
and what did you see as the response to this?
First 20 patients,
mentally
first 20 patients that we brought in were healthy people. Needs to be these numbers that I'm showing you. Most of these numbers that I'm showing, these were healthy people. These were not sick people. And we purposely picked people who were healthy because we discovered when we took 50 people and we tested them for all their toxins, everybody had them. Now, you and I have been around this field for a long time. 20 years ago, about 50% of my clients had toxins. 10 years ago, about 75% of my patients had toxins. This past year, nobody was free. Everybody had toxins. They had more of them, and they had higher levels of them. So the top 5 in Chicago ended up being glyphosate, which is completely associated with every kind of cognitive problem you want to think about because it burns the neurons. Lead and mercury. There's mercury again, your enemy to the brain. BPA, which is a endocrine disruptor, which stimulates cancer growth, and it acts like an estrogen, stimulating everything to grow you don't want. And then arsenic was number 5. And there's just so many, and the molds and the PFAs are just in the top dozen. They make it a very worrisome cocktail that we're all carrying around. Because this soup that we have inside of us now is contaminated. And you can't live in that soup without causing damage.
So, yeah.
The cognitive patients we have had 2 patients that we brought in who had cognitive decline. They have both been doing very well. Matter of fact, we've seen improvement on their cognition over the last 6 months. We've seen reversal of their telomeres. Their telomeres have gotten longer. But we saw all this inflammation and oxidation go down. Whether it's Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or ALS or heart disease or obesity or even cancer, all of these processes are fueled by inflammation. We've known that for quite some time. I think the problem that I'm having with the scientific industry is they say we've always had inflammation and chronic inflammation. The data doesn't play that out, actually, if you look at it. In the 1900s, we didn't have so much chronic inflammation. We had inflammation due to poverty, due to infections, because there was much, you died from infections, and that caused more acute inflammation. But chronic inflammation was certainly not as prevalent. But what we do know for sure is in the last 40 years, all the autoimmune diseases, Alzheimer's, cancer, heart disease, obesity, all which are considered chronic diseases, the top 10 causes of death are caused by inflammation. They've all been accelerating. And the only explanation to that is toxins. That's the only thing. We started adding those in the 60s, and now in the 2020s, we're overboard. We're all totally exposed. So we've given our children and our grandchildren a toxic planet to inherit. But now we've given them a solution where they can survive.
Excellent. And tell me about your dreams. And I know you work with several other colleagues who have even been on this program. Tell me about your collective dreams. Right now, this is a procedure that can be a little pricey for some to swing, even though health should be and is for most of this audience really their number one priority. But it can be expensive. So tell me your dreams. Are you hoping that the longer this is around, the more it will come down in price? And so everybody can take advantage of this because they should.
They need to. I always tell people right now, the price of the procedure is about the same thing you pay for a low-priced car. Now, for a process of 3, it's $25,000. For a process of 5, it's $35,000. For a process of 8, it's $50,000. Now, Jane, I've already gotten those prices down 30% in the last year because I know I like to build things. I like to make alliances. And we have expectation that in the next 2 years, we're going to be able to bring that down by another 30%. But as you said, if you do have the money and the resources and you do have the concern, this is a good area that you should consider investing in yourself. especially since that what we see now. I know David Haas was talking on his episode. I think that was episode 35 regarding the AMBAR study, which was done with the plasma exchange, and we saw such an improvement in the moderate Alzheimer's group, where 62% of them had no progress in over 14 months. We're not out to 14 months yet, but we're absolutely certain that we're going to break that barrier because we have processes to keep this information down. The AMBAR study just did your 5 treatments, and then that was it, and then you were off on your own, doing nothing other than what you did before. And that's why at month 14, all the results were basically negated. What we have now is processes in place to make sure it sustains. And given the fact that we want to improve the way the body runs with all the different various things, and make sure we're teaching you how to keep these toxins out, and the other various ways that we're doing. I mean, you could come back and do TPE again if you had to, but we don't think that's going to be necessary.
And tell us about the follow-up protocol after you've come in and had your 3, 4, 5, 6 TPE sessions. How do you keep those toxins out? What does that protocol look like? How rigorous?
So it's actually very simple, quite honestly. One of the things we do is we take the time that you're in the office in front of us, and we're building an app right now that you can get these videos as you wish, but it's about education. I mean, it is about teaching people that if you're going to do one thing, buy a triple filtered reverse osmosis water filter. Buy clean canteen stainless steel containers, and that's the water you should always drink. I don't go anywhere without my canteens of water. And it's all there is. I go to restaurants with my canteen. I go to picnics with my canteens because I know that water is the worst vehicle. Second off, we teach them about their food, about how to buy organic, because that's still the important thing to do, and buy it fresh. That's very important. Don't let it sit in the refrigerator for days. That's giving mold the chance to grow. And we do talk about how to cleanse the vegetables and how to peel the vegetables, because what the toxins are getting into you mostly by what you breathe, what you drink, and what you eat. So making sure that those are out of the way. And then we go through all the things with your house about a HEPA filter to purify the air, because as I mentioned, 75% of these chemicals are in your home. And we talk about how to clean out all the toxins from under the sink and cleaning the stuff that you could use that isn't going to toxify your environment. We talk about ozone makers for your washing machine so you can get rid of all the soap and all the conditioners that you use. Yes, and that works fantastic. They can get all this information from our website on the PDF download of MDL Get Clean and MDL Stay Clean. It's on our website, mdlifespan.com, and they can just find all these PDFs on Get Clean and Keep Clean.
You have a link that you would like people to turn to. Is that the link? Then they can download
Well,
something?
We're going to give you that link to give to your listeners on the website. Yeah,
We'll put
exactly.
it
up. So the other thing that we're doing is we're having people do plasma donation to keep them clean. Like David said in episode 35, and he's absolutely correct, plasma donation plus IV bars is not enough to get these results. We knew that going in, my team did, because what we understood, as you know in medicine, a lot of times what you do to get somebody better is not the same thing you do to keep them better. So you needed the plasma exchange because what we literally had to do was basically, you ever find that car, you ever see that picture of that car in that barn that's been there for 50 years and it's covered with dirt and weeds are growing out everywhere and there's no air in the tire, and there's no gas in the tank, and there's no sparks in the plug? Plasma exchange cleans up that car, gets rid of the weeds, but that's all it does. And then what we formulated is a nutrient shake that actually puts air in the tire, gas in the tank, sparks in the plug. So now the motor starts and you're actually able to start processing these toxins, which you weren't before, because one of the problems with toxins is they overwhelm the detox system and break it. So what the plasma exchange is basically dedunks all that and gives your detox pathways a chance to restart up again. And that's why at 6 months we're seeing better results than we did at 6 weeks, because your body's now doing what it needs to do. On top of keeping the toxins out with your lifestyle changes and taking a plasma donation once every month just to take a little bit of plasma off the top and let you generate new plasma, we're seeing incredible results.
So let me get this right. So someone comes to your office for TPE, but part of the follow-up care involves just going to the Red Cross and doing a plasma donation after this.
Exactly. But they also have to do the lifestyle, and they also have to do the shakes, because all three of those It's all the comprehensive panel. The plasma donations and what we've seen isn't enough to keep you clean. But if you're doing the lifestyle changes and you're doing the supplement, that is enough. And again, we have more to find out, but we're absolutely sure with the numbers that we have at this point, we're going to blow past that 12-month, 14-month barrier without any problem whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are there any people who are not good candidates for this? In other words, someone who is too far along in Alzheimer's or has heart disease, maybe they've had open heart surgery or stents or they have cancer. Are these people still eligible for doing this? Or would that concern you?
It does concern me. Now, we're doing this because it's new. It's a way to get all these toxins out. I see this really for the generation we're leaving behind with this earth, because this gives them a chance to survive in that world. Because we're seeing cancers occur in 40-year-olds now. And as you know, Alzheimer's in the 30 to 45 age group has increased 400% in the last 10 years. I mean, the incidence in the young group is startling alarming, because within the next 10 years, we're going to be talking about 500,000 people in that age group with Alzheimer's. This is very likely the way to slow down the Alzheimer's, just like AMBAR study slowed down the progress of ALS or of Alzheimer's. We believe this is a way to delay the onset. And that's great if we can get you to die with the genes, but not because of the Alzheimer's. So this is really what we're seeing this process is for. But in our group and the people of our age, it also is valuable because these toxins left over time do cause cancer. So the people that we're actually doing this procedure on, it's varied, but if you have chronic heart failure, if you have chronic kidney failure, if you're not able to sit in a chair for 2 hours and have the procedure done without, you have to be cognitive enough not to pull the IVs out. You can't be on medicines that keep you from having seizures. If you're on seizure medicine or ventricular arrhythmic medicines like amiodarone, or you're on anticoagulation, especially like Coumadin, we have to really talk to you about the process, because plasma exchange takes everything out. So we're taking your anti-seizure medicine out, your ventricular anti-arrhythmia medicine out, your anti-coag medicine. We have to be real clear with you as to there's ways around that, because you can take medicine right after the procedure, but there's a risk, especially if you're one of those patients who have seizures, that if you miss a dose, you're going to have a seizure. I wouldn't want to do this procedure on you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So everybody, when they come in to talk to us, they get a meeting with me first, and I sit there with a half an hour. We go over all these things because I want to make sure that you're a good candidate to have this procedure done. I don't want anybody spending that type of money unless we know we're going to get somewhat of a good response. Now, as medicine, we can't guarantee everything, but I'll tell you, Jane, those numbers I'm showing you are straight across the board of everybody combined, and they're all similar in that area of reduction.
Yeah. They're exciting. They're very exciting. So ideally, you want to see someone a lot younger than a senior citizen, ideally. You'd like to see someone in their 40s or in their 30s, worried about toxins, wanting to get them out now and then do a protocol to keep them away, because Alzheimer's starts really decades before we notice the symptoms. So the time to really attack your toxin load is early.
So we're really looking for the women who want to get pregnant, because these toxins cross the placental barrier, and we need to make sure we give the child the best chance that it can have to survive. And we're really looking for the people who have a family history or genetic history of Alzheimer's, cancer, heart disease, and they understand that there's a connection between the toxins and inflammation and those diseases, and they want to maintain a healthy nutrient environment of their own body. So yes, it's the people that are younger that are the ones that are going to be benefiting of this the greatest.
I bet you never imagined when you went to med school and trained as an ER, to be an ER doc, that you would be doing this and this jazzed about your profession after you've been in it decades. Your passion is very evident, and it's very beautiful.
Thank you.
And I bet you never guessed that you'd be doing
this.
Well,
the funny thing is, I came into this field about 27 years ago, and I was one of the very first people at some of the very first conferences. And I was very pleased that I was able to, help hormones get out into the world, and thought that was great, and build a software system so we could study the data and tell people how supplements really do work and for what. But this gift that the universe has given me to give to my team, to give to the community, I really feel this is an existential gift, really to mankind. This is a way of saving the human race from a toxic extinction.
I know you're into longevity. And trying to increase your health span is maybe a better way to put it. Could I ask you a personal question? I know you're doing TPE, probably religiously, but tell me what else you might be doing that you think is really contributing to decreasing your biological age and preventing the diseases of aging.
So
personally.
First off, I was the first patient through the protocol. I always am. Ask anybody who's been in this field with me long enough. I'm going to put myself through it first for every different right reason. And I only had to do 3. My toxin levels weren't all that high, but it was amazing. And I'll send you a graph of my results, especially my heavy metal results, because of my obesity and my heart disease that I had at 38 years old, which got me into this, worried about my heart, as well as I mentioned to you, the females in my family have had Alzheimer's. I worked for 20 years to try to get those toxins down into the upper level of the green, and 90 days later they were 0. I mean, I was like, I got the results because we weren't sure until that point what results we were going to have, and I literally cried because I was like so excited about what we were going to be able to offer people. Number one thing that I always tell people, it starts with the basics. It's the water you drink and the food you eat. That is a huge part I never understood. When I was 267 pounds, I smoked, I drank, I worked the night shift. I did not eat healthy things. I didn't even realize why that was so important. But that is a mainstay of every health. 80% of it is in the food, I would always say. And I exercise every day. I do a 10-mile bike ride, and then I work out in the gym for 20 to 30 minutes. And then I do another 15 minutes in the afternoon of cardio just to get my body sweating again, because sweating is a great way to get all those mold and those toxins out of you. And I do take a number of supplements. I probably take 47 supplements a day, but most of them are in a protein shake or in the shake that we developed. I do a number of different hormones and peptides. So I'm currently on testosterone growth hormone. I take PT141. I take BPC 157, and the neural peptides as well, because I'm working to keep that off. I take a product called Cabodex, which is cyclodextrin, which actually removes the soft plaque from all the arteries. The interesting thing about Cabodex, as we're working with that company right now, is that their problem with the Cabodex is once the soft plaques have been removed, they come back because they can't turn off the toxins and the inflammation. Well, I got the toxin inflammation part covered.
Oh.
They got the super soap, as it's called. So we're right now starting into another version of this whole protocol where we're starting to look at heart disease. And 2 cardiologists that I work with, major universities, we all feel that we have a very good chance at reversing a significant portion of heart disease, even possibly in people who aren't operable candidates. Now, wouldn't that be exciting?
Oh, that's exciting. That's very exciting. Thank you for sharing all that. I appreciate it.
A lot of fun.
Is there anything else, Dr. Savage, that you would like to add? This has been very exciting and informative for me.
I think what I want to add, that I'm going to make an offer to your listeners, if within the first 30 days that this airs, that we will offer all your listeners, if they mention that they saw this podcast, instead of the series of 5 for $35,000, we'll cut it down to $30,000. We'll give them a 15% reduction, because I just want people who are interested to come get
generous.
this done. And that means you make one trip to Chicago once a month. The rest of it we do at your home. I made this protocol so it's accessible and that it's easy, and now we're going to start banging down the price lower and lower. So again, and all you have to do is mention that they saw this podcast and be within 30 days of your airing it.
Excellent. Thank you. That is really generous, because all the folks on this podcast want the results that you're seeing with your patients.
There's a lot of people too, Jane, that they just come in to get the testing done because they want to know where they're at. And we do that as well, because you can actually go to our website and order the toxin kit, and you don't even need to talk to anybody to get it sent to you. And once your results come back, I'll jump on the line, or one of my medical personnel will jump on the line, and we'll go over those toxin results with you. So if people are like, where do I get this toxin testing? From our website. That's $9.95.
Excellent. Excellent. Because maybe
that includes, we call it the take the toxins and talk. So toxin test and talking is what we call it, so that you get the test done, and then you get to have one of the medical people go over your results with you if you want.
Perfect. Dr. Paul Savage, thank you for your time. Thank you for your generosity and what you're doing.
I appreciate being on your show, Jane. Anytime.
You've been listening to the Cutting Edge Health Preventing Cognitive Decline podcast. Any information shared here is for educational purposes only. Guest opinions are their own. This podcast is not responsible for the veracity of their statements. Do not use any of this information without first talking to your doctor. Cutting Edge Health, LLC, is not responsible for what may happen to you if you use their information in place of official advice from a medical professional. Thanks for listening. Be well.